Hi, I'm Megan Romer in Louisiana, and you're listening to Billie Winner-Davis on Two Broads Talking Politics.
Are you listening?
Hi, everyone. This is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics. I'm on tonight with my co-host, Sophie. Hey, Sophie.
Hey, Kelly.
And joining us on this episode is Billie Winner-Davis, who is the mother of Reality Leigh Winner. Hi, Billie.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. So we'll talk a little bit more about sort of Reality's situation, and I think a lot of people are at least familiar with the name. But what I was hoping we could start with, if it's okay with you, is just sort of getting a better picture of who Reality is as a person, you know, maybe a little bit about kind of the things that she's interested in, you know, what sorts of things she was doing before she became a household name. So if you wouldn't mind talking about that, I think that always sort of helps ground the conversation a little bit.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, Reality is 27 years old now. She was 25 years old at the time of her arrest. So she has actually spent 2 birthdays behind bars. Reality is my youngest daughter, my youngest child. And when Reality graduated from high school, she joined the Air Force and she became a crypto-linguist. And she was taught 3 different languages, the Middle Eastern languages, Farsi, Dari, and Pashto. And she worked at the NSA as a crypto-linguist while she was in the Air Force and worked on some special projects, worked with the drone program. And she actually earned a Medal of Commendation with the Air Force for her excellent service and work in identifying targets and threats. And after her service term was up, she did get an honorable discharge from the Air Force, and she went to work at the NSA there in Augusta, Georgia, at Fort Gordon for a contract agency there. And so she was kind of doing a little bit of the same work that she was doing while she was in the Air Force. She was, translating a lot of documents and things like that. And so she's always been one to serve her country. She's always been an extremely caring and giving person. She's always served all the communities that she's lived in, even as a child. I worked with Child Protective Services, and, our entire family was very involved with our community and helping those in need. And Reality, was always involved in projects that I was involved in projects with her high school. When she was in the Air Force, she volunteered with an athletic organization called Athletes Serving Athletes, where they actually run races and marathons with disabled kids to give disabled kids an opportunity to become marathon runners and to give, them that opportunity. She also collected shoe boxes for children for the Samaritan's Purse. She fostered animals. She's always volunteered with veterans organizations. And so she's always been, a pretty remarkable young woman in that she was more about serving her community than she was about serving herself.
And I read that she also did yoga and had turned vegan, so it made me think a little bit about myself.
All right. Okay. Yes. Reality is a certified yoga instructor, and yes, she is vegan. She follows the vegan diet. It's very important to her. She's very concerned about climate change. She's very concerned about our environment. She's done things, if you look at her social media things, she's done things to make sure that she at least did her part in trying to help the world. She's always been a person who wants to make the world a better place. And even just today, she called me and she asked me if I could donate some money in her name to the victims of the cyclone over in Zimbabwe. That's who Reality is. She's just a very giving, caring person. She is quite an athlete. She does yoga. She teaches spinning. She's a CrossFit athlete. And right prior to her arrest, she was training for her very first weightlifting competition. She's also a very talented artist. There's a website that's been put together which showcases some of her artwork. And so, yeah, she's a pretty remarkable young woman. I'm proud of her,
Yeah.
to say the least.
So then let's talk a little bit about the arrest and what actually happened, what she was charged with, and then we can talk sort of about the trial and the sentencing and stuff. So I believe this all happened in summer of 2017, and so, as I understand it, what happened, what she's been alleged to have done was to have taken a document that was a top secret document, taken it out of the contractor company of where she worked for the contractor for the NSA, and then given that document to The Intercept, which is a news organization. And so then she was indicted under the Espionage Act. Can you elaborate a little bit on what happened, sort of the situation?
Yeah. So basically, it was in May of 2017, and this was at the time when, there were questions out there as to whether or not the Russians had interfered in our election, in our presidential election of 2016. And this was at the time when our administration, our White House, was doing all that they could to deny it. And as you may recall, James Comey was fired. I believe it was on May 8th or 9th. And right after that, then President Trump met in the White House in the Oval Office with some Russian diplomats, and he actually bragged to them that he had gotten rid of this whole Russia thing, and by firing James Comey, and he made it known that he did fire James Comey because he wanted to make the Russia thing go away. And so at that moment in time, although I've never had the conversation with Reality about what was going on in her mind at this time, but it was within that time frame where Reality, she did have access to this document with the NSA, and she printed it, and she mailed it anonymously to The Intercept. I believe she mailed it like on May 10th. And so it was right and within those days. And, if you read the FBI interrogation transcript, basically when she admitted to doing this, she said, it was just like a boiling point at that moment. She said she couldn't take it anymore. And she just felt like this document needed to be out there. And this document was actually like a compilation of intelligence information. It was a summary of intelligence information showing how the Russians had attempted to send these phishing emails to the the voting systems in about 21 states. And those phishing emails actually contain viruses. And so if somebody had opened any of those spear phishing emails, then it would have given them access into those voting systems. And so this was definite proof. This was absolute proof. It was an intelligence summary of information that our intelligence agencies had collected as far as this piece of it, of what the Russians had done to try to hack into our actual voting systems. And it didn't take long for the FBI to kind of track down who had printed this document, and it was postmarked, mailed from Augusta, Georgia, and it led them straight to, Reality. And they went into her home on Saturday, June 3rd of 2017, told her that they had, a search warrant for her house, her vehicle, and her person. They took her car keys, they took her cell phone, and pretty much made it clear to her that she wasn't free to leave, although they never Mirandized her. They never told her that she had the right to remain silent. They never told her she had the right to call anyone and to have legal assistance. and they interrogated her there in her home in Augusta in a back room. And from there, she did admit to being the one to print out this document and to mail it to the Intercept. And she was arrested on that day. She was taken to a rural county jail there in Georgia, in a small town about 40 miles from Augusta, Georgia. And she was held there. And she's been the only person, only non-military person, charged with this sort of crime. It's a nonviolent crime. She has no prior arrest, no prior record of any kind. She has outstanding service. She's been the only person who's been denied bail. And so she was actually denied bond the entire pretrial time, which was something that we really tried to fight, and her attorneys really tried to fight, but she was denied 4 times. And so she was held in this little county jail for about 17 months. And it got to the point where, the court continued to rule against her to where it didn't look like she even had a defense. And basically they pretty much just beat her down until she pled guilty and she accepted a plea deal.
What were some of the reasons they gave for denying bail?
Oh my gosh, this was it was absolutely crazy. My husband and I were at the very first bail hearing, and at the very first bail hearing, they said that they were not done processing all of the evidence that they had gathered, that she had all of these cell phones and these computers in her possession, and they were trying to decide whether there was more information. They were sure that she had possibly had other documents in her possession. And so they were telling the court that basically the country wouldn't be safe in allowing her out, that there was just too much that they didn't know at that point. They also lied to the court and told them that during a conversation with myself, that Reality had actually told me that the case was about documents, plural, that she had leaked, where that came later. They had to apologize and say, no, that's not what she said. I had asked her what she was being charged with, and she said that I leaked a document. She never said documents. So they made this big deal that they were sure that there was other evidence out there that would show that Reality was a threat to the country. They also indicated that she had $30,000 in her bank account, which made her a flight risk. And when you compare that to some, big cases that are going on right today, and you see these millionaires who are being let out on bond, that really doesn't make any sense to me, how a young woman with $30,000 in her bank account is a major, flight risk. And they took her passport, so I don't know how they thought that she was going to, flee. They indicated that her training with the Air Force, made her an ideal kind of target for like the Taliban and ISIS to recruit. And therefore she couldn't be trusted to be let out on bail, even though she had just received a Medal of Accommodation from the Air Force, with regard to how many targets she had identified and taken out of the field. Why would the Taliban and ISIS even give her consideration? All of their arguments were so bizarre, and they twisted everything about her, everything good about her, they twisted into a negative. The fact that she speaks all of these languages, she could go anywhere. She could go anywhere, Your Honor. The fact that she had $30,000, that right in and of itself was suspicious. However, then they made a big deal out of, when they went into her home didn't have any furniture because she didn't believe in material things. She didn't need, a dining set if it was just her, So it was just so, it was just really pure evil how they took everything about Reality Winner and they twisted it into this narrative that here we have a person who is, not to be trusted. Reality journals, everything. She had many, many journals at her house. And they took one journal where she had doodled in the corner and had said, I want to burn the White House down and move to Kurdistan. Ha ha. And they showed that as, here we have a very dangerous person, but they didn't introduce all of the other journals that, we have that show that here we have a person who deeply cares about everyone and about humankind and about her country as well as other countries, They took little pieces like that, and it's kind of scary. This could happen to any one of us. They could take just bits and pieces of any of our lives, and they could twist them, and they could turn it into the narrative that they wanted it to be, So that was, and that was probably, the hardest thing during all of this is trying to fight for her release, just her freedom, so that she could work with her attorneys to defend herself and to at least talk, because really what they did is they silenced her. Nobody's heard from Reality Winner because you can't. They've locked her away and they've silenced her. And so nobody else, knows, the public out there, they got to hear what the prosecution put on as far as why this person's a dangerous person, but they didn't get to hear from Reality herself. And that's why I guess I do as much talking as I can on her behalf, so that I can help people know who she really is, the other side of this.
So Reality is currently serving a prison sentence of 5 years and 3 months, which is the longest prison sentence ever ruled for leaking classified documents to media. Why do you think, this is such a really intense sentence. Why do you think the judge ruled that way? Why do you think that happened? It's just so strange to me. Watching the whole thing unfold and how this court ruled against her at every turn, I have to believe that there was pressure from above. I have to believe that there was pressure from the DOJ, at the highest levels, and also from our White House. I have to believe that, when Trump at the beginning was indicating that they had to stop the leakers, and how in James Comey's memos indicating that, yes, we just want to catch one and we want to nail him to the door as an example to others. Reality was their first leaker that they caught, and they intended to make such an example out of her to scare anyone else out there who might have access to information, who might think about doing the same thing. And in fact, in their press release, and in their sentencing memo, the government said that. They said that we needed to make this sentence harsh enough to deter all others. So Reality Winner is actually paying a huge price to be a deterrent for any other, intelligent personnel out there. It's really a chilling message to them. No matter what, don't say anything. No matter what you see, do not leak, do not come out and say anything, because look at what happened to Reality Winner.
And we can post the actual document that The Intercept released, and people can see it's only 5 pages long. You made a point that it was just the one document, and it's a very damning document, I think, of, sort of what Russia was trying to do and how they were trying to do it. But it is only 5 pages long, and at least the way The Intercept has posted it, there's some things that are blacked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, something that I have, been trying to get out there. Like, it was one document, one time, and she certainly wasn't selling secrets to a foreign government. She wasn't betraying her country, but yet they used the Espionage Act against her, and they persecuted her to the very fullest. Where we've never seen that before. When you look at all other cases of whistleblowers, you look at that they may have leaked several documents. They may have leaked a lot of data, like Chelsea Manning's case, but with Reality Winner, it was one document, one time, and it didn't harm us. I believe that it helped us. I believe that it was in, our public interest for this information to be out there, especially at that time, so that it didn't get lost. And for that, she's really, she got the toughest sentence.
What's your next step? Like, are you focusing on appeals? Are you focusing on trying to get the president to pardon Reality? What's your next step here?
Yeah, because Reality did sign a plea agreement, and this was the absolute best deal that the government would give her. And Reality took this plea agreement because the government made it known that they were going to seek the full 10-year sentence on her. And that's what people need to know as well. Reality pled guilty to get this 63-month prison sentence and 3 years supervised release so that she wouldn't end up with the 10 years, because the government was really going after her for the full 10 years, if you believe that. And with the court, ruling against her at every turn, and the fact that she was being kept in this small county jail that couldn't meet her needs for 17 months, she really was backed into a corner. So our next steps, we can't, look for an appeal of any kind, but our next steps is certainly to get awareness out there. We really need the public to know who Reality Winner is, and we need people to start speaking out in her behalf. I would like for all congressmen to know her name and to know exactly what's happened, and to look at this, to really look at her case in order for her to get some sort of justice. Her attorneys are looking at the possibility of filing for a pardon or clemency down the road. I myself, I write the White House, I tweet, I'm out there doing whatever I can to raise awareness and, to ask for her release.
You said that you are in touch with Reality, that she called you today. How is she doing? How is, obviously being in prison, I'm sure is terrible, but is she holding up okay?
She is. She's been very strong. And definitely now that she's in a federal prison, it certainly is a much better environment than the county jail that she was being held in. While she was in the county jail, the conditions were not ideal. They weren't meeting her diet. She was basically living on peanut butter and potato chips and oatmeal the entire time that she was there, because they didn't know how to meet her dietary needs in that place. She was assaulted. She was injured. She was denied medical care. And so she's in a better place now that she's in the federal prison. She is doing well. She is taking college courses. She's working 2 jobs within the prison. She's teaching exercise programs, which she loves. She absolutely loves that. She is keeping strong. I do know also that, she wakes up every day and thinks, this is it. This is my life until December 30th of 2021. And so she does everything that she can to keep herself busy and to keep herself, motivated and positive. But there are moments where it's tough for her, and when she does see the news, it does frustrate her. She thinks of all the people, of all the things that are happening in our world today. Really, she's the worst criminal out there, where she has to, carry this burden and be imprisoned for 5 years. Yeah. So it is frustrating for her.
What can our listeners do to help, and where can they sort of go to find out more information?
I think probably the best place for everybody to go is the standwithreality.org website. And that website basically has all the legal documents. It has our Twitter accounts, our Facebook groups. It has Reality's address. If people want to write to her, they certainly can write to her. There's an online petition that people can sign, and just following us on our different social medias. We will have, call to actions. We are looking at getting together an event around the second anniversary of her arrest coming up in June, so that we can really raise awareness and get, different things going on across the country to really get it out there. We ask people to write their congressmen, to, say her name. We've had in the past where we've had a call to action to ask people to call the White House, which we've done, so we are doing, certain things. And we're just, I think right now we're trying to grow the campaign again. The campaign's been dormant for a little bit, and just recently we're trying to grow it back up again to get volunteers in, to get, fresh ideas on what we can do so that we continue to grow the awareness of who she is, what's happened to her, and what people can do to help.
Is there anything else that you'd like to make sure that we talk about?
I think another thing is for people to understand that reform is needed with regard to the Espionage Act. The use of this against citizens like Reality and like some other whistleblowers before her, and even going on right now, this is wrong for our government to be doing. I can definitely see that if somebody is selling secrets, if somebody is actively spying and, jeopardizing our safety and working with foreign agencies, that's where the Espionage Act should be used, not against citizens like Reality who are doing a public service for us.
Well, Billie, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. I think a lot of people sort of hear things in the news and then don't really know all of the details, and it's easy to sort of think of people as just names and not people. And so I think it's always useful to hear, that someone is a real person with feelings and motivations and all sorts of things that we should be thinking deeply about. And, I think a lot of our listeners would agree we need a lot of reforms in the way that we think about criminal justice, and that includes things like the Espionage Act, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And especially our whole criminal justice system as well. This has really been an eye-opener for us. We've never been involved in anything like this. And just navigating through the criminal justice system and learning, about all of the things, if you're not rich in our country, then you can expect to be trampled on. That's, there's no other way to say it.
Well, we will put links on our website up to the Stand with Reality website, and also, as I mentioned, to the article that was published in The Intercept. So hopefully people will pay more attention and follow the Twitter account and Facebook and get to know some of the calls to action and try to help out.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate that so much.
Absolutely. And definitely next time you talk to Reality, please let her know that there are people out here thinking about her.
Oh, thank you so much. That does go a long way for her. It does.
Thanks for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics. Our theme song is called Are You Listening? Off of the album Elephant-Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Wethlin and was created for use by this podcast.